A warm thank you to President Mohammed Bande for inviting the World Benchmarking Alliance to this 75th anniversary ceremony. Your Excellencies, friends, we're thrilled to be part of the UN's largest conversation on the sustainable world we want. WBA is a multi-stakeholder alliance launched at the fringe of UNGED 2018. Our work and vision have always centered around the SDGs. We bring together diverse actors to incentivize the private sector to meet the goals, and we hold it to account in how it does so. We do this by measuring the performance of the 2,000 most influential companies around the world. These are the companies that can lead and enable systems change in every region. Our methodologies and indicators consider impact in 7 systems. We measure company policies and practices as well as supply chains. We need to tackle these systemic, social, economic and environmental issues. Urgent action now seems more pressing than ever. For us, this means helping companies translate the SDGs into concrete actions through our benchmarks. It also means keeping everything we do as a free public good so that everyone can join the transparency movement in holding the companies to account. This will help them to also build back better. And this is the systemic change we need to see for a planet that is fit for future generations everywhere.
The SDGs place people first, and so should companies. The private sector has a responsibility to support human development in a way that respects the rights of workers, consumers, and the wider community. To reflect this, WBA will assess 2,000 companies against a common set of core social expectations that all companies must meet. Through this process, we will also put a spotlight on specific issues that deserve deeper analysis, like our gender equality and women's empowerment benchmark and our human rights benchmark that focuses on high-risk sectors.
One of the most pressing global challenges of our time is feeding a growing population of 10 billion people by 2050 with sustainably produced food. Research shows that it is possible to transform our food system, but that it requires multi-sector action. Companies have enormous capacity to drive this change. WBA's Food and Agriculture Benchmark will assess 350 leading companies from across the entirety of the food system. Leading up to and at the UN Food Systems Summit in 2021, we look forward to continuing this conversation further with you.
Digital technologies have a transformative impact on many industries. The current pandemic has accelerated the importance of this digital revolution and increased the need for ICT companies to act responsibly. For digital technologies to benefit everyone everywhere, barriers in access, skills, use, innovation must be mitigated. WBA's Digital Inclusion Benchmark, launched this autumn, will track the contribution of the 100 most significant ICT companies in the world.
A major decarbonisation and energy transformation is needed to align with global efforts to prevent the worst impacts of climate change and limit global warming. Private sector engagement alongside action by governments and civil society are critical for meeting the Paris Agreement. WBA's Climate and Energy Benchmark will rank 450 companies from around the world in high-emitting sectors. This process of benchmarking is set to be the accountability mechanism that will measure corporate progress against the Paris Agreement to get the planet to where it needs to be.
Looking to the future beyond UN 75, I will conclude with 5 calls to action, which are key for this decade of action. First, to businesses. Following COVID-19, there is a need for a transparency revolution in the private sector. So we ask you to embrace benchmarks and learn from them as you align your practices for our planet's future. We need to transform capital markets and financial institutions to meet long-term challenges of the SDGs. Second, to governments. We look forward to your assistance in advancing a decade of disclosure amongst businesses to fill gaps of inaction and in encouraging the role that civil society can play. As recent global protests indicate, your efforts must include ending discrimination in all forms, whether based on race, gender, religion, disability, sexual orientation, or other status. Third, to civil society. Remind governments and businesses alike about the need to listen and learn from all stakeholders, including those from the most vulnerable communities. This best happens when stakeholders from all levels are involved to create systems transformations. Fourth, to WBA ourselves. We are committed to transform business while working with our allies, civil society, governments, and the UN. We aspire to be the accountability mechanism for the SDGs. Fifth, to our friends at the UN. Thank you for your leadership and for keeping the lights on, even amidst these challenging times. Please keep us on course to achieve the SDGs and continue to advance multilateralism, inclusivity, and partnerships necessary to realize the future we all want.
Was that good?